Alright guys, here's my condensed version of my stretching routine. So we start by warming up. You always have to warm up before you stretch so you don't pull anything while you're stretching. There's a bunch of different jumps that I do. I just kind of do a different combination every time, but here I'm just doing 8 counts of jumps, and then I'll do 8 counts of jumping jacks, and then I believe I go back to 8 counts of jumps and then some high knees. When you guys are jumping, make sure that you're rolling through your feet. So coming up all the way through point to the tips of your toes, and as you jump, make sure your feet are pointed. This will allow you to jump way higher. And when we're doing jumps and leaps in our dances, obviously we need to get high off the ground. So doing this in your jumps will help improve that. Now this is just what I do to cool down. I go into a deep plie, roll backwards, and as I come back up, I roll all the way through my spine. As I'm doing this, I'm taking deep breaths, so a deep breath in when I plie down, and a deep breath out as I roll back, and that's what helps me cool down after warming up. So I do this 2 times, and on my third one, I roll down forward and touch the ground. In 1 second, I'm going to start bending and straightening my knees. As I'm doing this, you're going to want to start pulling your arms back through your legs to pull you even closer in. So I'll show you in a second. Here I'm bend and reach through and straighten. I'm going to go to the side to show you a little bit better, but stick your hands through and straighten up and try to pull your body all the way through. Now I'm going to walk my hands forward and put my elbows down, and I'm going to go on releve with my feet. So I'm going to push up and then all the way down. Up and down. Up and down. And then go back in. Now I'm going to go over to my right side. As I'm doing this, you're going to want to try to hug your leg, and then when you bend your left knee, you're going to push it over to feel a really nice stretch in your hips. Bend, straighten, bend, and straighten. And now I'm going to go into my lunge. Now while we're doing this, make sure that you keep your front leg, whatever leg you're doing, at a 90-degree angle. You're going to reach your arms out and bounce in this position. Try to get as low as you can in your lunge with keeping your back leg straight and your front leg at a 90-degree angle. When you're in any type of lunge, make sure that your leg is always at a right angle at all times. Now put your elbows down on the ground and try to push your hip down a little bit more. Now, also while you're doing this, keep in mind that your leg might lean a little bit forward, so try to keep an eye on that right angle. Now I'm going to sit up, and you're going to make sure that your hips are square, which means keeping them both facing the front and not twisting your hips at all. And then while you're doing that, place your hands on your bum and push your hips down, because that little extra pressure makes you feel it a little bit more. I'll show in a second. I'm just obviously fixing my hair for my warm-up. Yep. So see there, I'm pushing my hips down to feel the stretch just a little bit more. After this, I'm going to push my hips back and lean forward to my front leg. For this, also make sure that your hips are in line. If you can't go down as far, that's totally okay, because I can't go down all the way either. Another thing that you can do is flexing your foot. If you don't feel it while you're down there, flexing your foot will give a little bit more pull in your hamstring. I'm going to lean back forward, and with my opposite hand, I'm going to grab my back leg and pull my leg in. While I'm doing that, make sure that my front leg is still at a 90-degree angle, and that I'm not directly on my back knee, I'm over the top of it. That causes your legs to be in a straight line, and that's when you feel that stretch right in your upper thigh. Lean back one more time. Now to go down to my right split. When you're doing this, keep both hands on either side. This will help you to prevent from switching your hips around, which wouldn't be your right split. Now I'm going to lean forward and touch my nose to my knee. If you can't feel the stretch in your split, like my right one I can't, you can dig your back foot in, and that gives it a little bit of an overstretch, which helps me. Now you jump right back up into your right lunge and start bouncing again. No weight in between. Straighten your back leg and come up a little bit and go down. Keep both legs facing parallel the same way that your body is. Go back to the middle. Try to pull your body through. And I just do that with my arms because I feel like it gives me a little bit of a deeper stretch in my back. Now I'm going to my left side. Making sure that my hips are still in line, pulling my body in as far as I can. Bend the knee, straighten. Bend, straighten. Bend, straighten, bend, straighten. Now I'm going to go to my left lunge, making sure that front leg's not at a 90-degree angle and my back leg's straight. I'm going to start bouncing. Make sure that you go down as far as you can. And you can either do fast bounces or slow bounces, either or, they both work. I do differently depending on how I'm feeling, it doesn't really matter. So now I'm going to put my elbows down, trying to think about keeping my hips in line, my front leg at a 90-degree angle, my back leg straight. Alright, I'm going to put my back leg down, keep my hips in line, and I'm going to push down my hips. Alright, now I'm sitting back. Make sure that your back foot's always pointed. If your ankle's off the ground, that means you're sickling your foot. Your entire back leg should be on the ground. As you can tell here, I am sickling my foot, which is not good. And then I'm going back forward now. I'm going to grab my back leg with the opposite hand and make sure that you're rolling over your back knee. So you're not directly on it, you're sitting all the way down into your hip. Sit back one more time, lean forward, and go down to your left split. Now this split isn't as good for me, so I do show you how you can dig your foot in. I'm just not as good at this split. But if you have your left split, like I know Sydney you'd probably do because you're a lefty, this would be where you would start digging your back foot in. Make sure you go up and over. Right back into that lunge and start bouncing. Stand up and go down to that front foot. And back to the middle again. I'm now going to go down into a grand plie in second, and I'm just going to rock my hips back and forth. This just helps me feel the pull a little bit more in my hips. Now I'm going to push to one side. Push to the other. Go back to the middle for a second, and now I'm gonna go down to butterfly. So for butterfly, there's a few different things. First, you need to keep your feet together flat-footed. And then from there, you need to try to push your hips down. I try to keep my hands on my feet to make sure they don't pull apart. And then as you're pushing your hips down, you can either do butterfly if they don't go all the way down, or just push them down by themselves. Now from here, I'm going to go flat back over, and then you stop as soon as you feel your body start to roll. And then after that, you roll all the way over. As I'm down here, I'm just pushing my knees down so I feel the stretch nice in my hips. Put your feet out in front of you and point, flex, point, and flex. While you're doing this, make sure you're really working through your feet. You don't want to just kind of point and flex your feet through the motion. You want to roll all the way through your toes and all the way back up. Now while I'm doing this, I am going to lift all the way out of my hips and then fold over to give me a little bit of extra room. Another thing to keep in mind while you're pointing and flexing your feet is that you're not sitting down and relaxing your back, but keeping it nice and straight, because when you are sitting down and slouching, you are not working through your entire body, so sitting up nice and straight helps pull through your legs a little bit more. Now I'm pulling through my feet flexed. Don't grab from the inside of your feet. You will sickle and it's so bad for you. Make sure you grab from the outside of your feet by your baby toes and pull your feet outwards as you go down. Now I'm going into my frog. So a frog is pretty self-explanatory. It's a butterfly that's upside down. A helpful tip is go against a wall or something that's sturdy and push your hips all the way back against them. This helped me when I was first doing my frog and I didn't have it all the way. Now that I do, which having it all the way is meaning that your hips are all the way open and your feet can touch your, I'll say butt. And if you can do that, then what you can do is come out and do an open frog. So you open your hips if you're doing a split, but bend your legs back and then just kind of rock through this motion. This is an alternative that helps you feel it a little bit more instead of doing the frog if you don't feel that. From here, I'm just going to open my legs up, keeping my baby toes back. You want to try to keep your baby toes on the ground or close to it. While I'm doing this, I'm rocking back and forth. But I'm also lifting out of my hips so that when I'm rocking, I'm not sitting into it. I'm going to go over to my left side right now and reach up and over. And then I'm going to come back up and lay over on down. When you're doing this, make sure you're thinking about your other foot, making sure that it's turned back with your baby toes to the ground and also that it's pointed at all times. Going to rock back and forth a little bit and go over to the right side. Another thing to keep in mind is that when you go over to your right or left side, sometimes the opposite hip lifts off the ground a little bit, so there's a gap. Make sure that both hips are down. If that means that you don't go down as far, that's totally okay, but just keep in mind that so that you're not stretching incorrectly. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go flat back as far as I can over to the front, without touching the ground. Hold it for 4 seconds and come back up. I'm going to do this twice right now, but I typically do it about 4 or 5 times because this helps me squeeze my muscles. And then on my last one, I fold all the way over. Now while I'm doing this, I'm keeping my baby toes back. I'm not actually doing my split right now. I'm just leaning to the front. My baby toes are back to the ground and I'm pointing my toes. And now I'm rolling over to my split. Make sure while you're doing all of your splits that you don't fall out of them and go back in. I know it hurts. This year is the first year that I've had all of my splits. And I know it hurts if you don't have your splits. But make sure that you're holding it because it's not going to get better if you don't hold it. I just did butterfly, just kind of loosen my hips a little bit. Now I'm going to warm up my feet. So I'm going to do a tendu, which is pointing through your foot. I'm going to crunch my front toes and lean over them. Push them back the other way and then go back. I'm going to do this on the other side. Now I'm going to do this to the sides. Now I'm just going to stretch out my neck and then next my arms. So I do usually do some back stretches just kind of to loosen up my back, but I just recently injured my back, so I'm not able to show you what I do with my back in video. But some like back bends and things like that just to warm up your back, because I do a lot of things with bending of the back and twisting of the back, so I definitely don't need you guys pulling any of that, and obviously also you can warm up your tricks. Thanks guys!